Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Brighton podcast. It's your boy, Jamie G, and I'm with my guy, Blessings Chabamba. How we doing, Bless?
Yeah, very good. I'm starting to like these pods with just me and you.
Yeah, we're getting used to it, aren't we? Just the reaction. We're getting used to it and we're liking it so much, probably because we keep getting decent results. If we go through a string of results where we lose every game, those could be dark times and we could be crying on this pod. But that is not happening anytime soon because the top four is still on the cards. We are sitting third after playing Arsenal, Man United, who are obviously very good. I mean, two great teams there. But yeah, 7 points out of 9. What more could you ask for to start the season?
Yeah, I mean, mixing it up with the big boys is what we love doing, giving the big boys a bloody nose. Love it.
We are the bogey team. We are the bogey team for so many clubs. They just can't beat us for some reason. No matter who we get in, no matter who we sell, which manager we have, it's just what we do.
Let's just not drop points against Ipswich.
Yeah, that would be a dark, dark day. We do so well heading into the international break, and then after the international break, if we drop points to the promoted club of Ipswich, who were playing League One like 2 seasons ago, then that would be dark, dark days. But we are here. We have watched the Arsenal game. We've reviewed it. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out. Yesterday's podcast, we gave our reactions to the result. But now we've gone into more depth. We watched it again and we've picked out some talking points. And we're starting off by a very rough start and the early defensive struggles of Jack Hinchelwood against Bukayo Saka. He was getting cooked for the first 25 minutes, wasn't he, Bless?
Yeah, it was a tough one to watch. He was getting twisted in and out. But I felt for him, really. I felt for him because it was very early on and it looked like Saka was, on point, and it felt like it's going to be a really long afternoon, but he sort of, started to recover, but it was tough out there for him.
Yeah, 100%. I think there was moments in that game, where he just kept on getting wrong side. He made fouls. He didn't know what way Saka was going to go, whether it was going to shoot with his left or cut back and cross it with his right. He was kind of just getting twisted inside out and seemed a bit lost out there. And like you say, you've got a feel for him because he's not a natural fullback. He's kind of there to fill in, do a kind of role. Like we've spoken about many times, was a centre mid or a midfielder going through the academy, then was playing right back last season, now left back. It's been a difficult transition, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens when Kadioglu and obviously Estupinian was on the bench and came on. When they're fit and ready to go, I wonder what Hertz is going to do with Jack Hinchelwood now. Is he going to now to start embedding him into midfield? Because we do look a little bit light in midfield as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think it was a great experience for him just to be put in the game with that kind of magnitude. But he did get rinsed. But tactically, I wonder what he would do when those two come back.
Yeah. I mean, it's good experience as well to be up against the likes of Bukayo Saka, who is one of the better right wingers in the world, if not one of the best, or at least top 3 in my opinion. But it feels Jack Hinchelwood. The thing that it feels like they were targeting him, which felt like child abuse at some points. A bit of they were targeting my poor boy with the long crossfield ball. He was getting isolated 1v1. He needed more support out there as well. Like it felt like Baliba wasn't coming over to help, and I feel like after the 25th minute, Mitoma started coming back a lot more to help try and maintain Saka or stop that threat to some extent. But yeah, that's where my struggles is. And I noticed it in the Everton game, even against Jack Harrison. The crossfield ball, it feels like he's not confident either winning the header or when he is far out on the touchline, 1v1 against the winger. It doesn't feel like he's confident or believes or never looks like he's going to win that battle, that duel. And more often than not, especially against Saka on Saturday, he did get beaten a couple of times, and it led to dangerous crosses, a couple of chances. And I did sit there and think, it's going to be a long day, and if they keep giving the ball to him, this could be we could concede 3 just from that side.
Yeah, it's tough for fullback is a tough position because in the Premier League now, there's just so many good wingers, and it's that having to keep an eye on your man, but also keep an eye on the ball. That kind of thing is, you know, when you're in midfield, it's not quite like that. But that kind of thing for a fullback is common, where you have to just keep looking at both.
Yeah.
And obviously, you don't want to run in with him and keep everyone on side. So it's a lot to think about and learn for a young man in like a position he's not that well, a position he's probably not that natural at, let's say.
Yeah. And I mean, Jack Hinchelwood, going on to our next point, brilliantly there. Jack Hinchelwood wasn't the only one that struggled defensively with their winger. I think Matoma had an absolutely brilliant game against Ben White, and it was what stood out to me about the Saturday performance of Matoma was the burst of pace to get past Ben White on several occasions. Obviously, Arsenal are formidable now with playing 4 centre backs along that back line, and it feels like if there is a beating of them, it is that burst of pace, that agility, because they are quite big, they're stocky, and they can be quite quick, but perhaps like not as quick or agile as the traditional fullback of the light ones that bomb up the lines and things like that. So it feels like that's where Mitoma shone a lot, and playing those burst of pace, then whipping a ball through, or a strong drilled ball across goal, dangerous crosses like that. That's where it stood out to me, and that's what I like seeing.
Yeah, former Brighton boy Ben White as well. Yeah, it's good to watch Matoma. He looks very, very sharp. What I liked especially is just his delivery off the left foot as well. Seems like he's so comfortable going either way, cutting in on the right or even crossing on the left. I think with the new system again is built for wingers, so we are going to see the best of Matoma. I think this year. I think he's going to carry on and kick on from sort of where he left on before the injury troubles started for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that, and it's quite rare actually that wingers can go both sides. Nowadays, it feels like they're always just cutting in, but it shows how dangerous you can actually be if you do take your man on, get to the byline, then whip a ball in or cross a ball in, cut, or even do a cutback. And the only annoying thing that came from it, and we could have scored three goals from those chances if just Welbeck was there perhaps like a second earlier, or perhaps there was better anticipation from Pedro or our attacking players, or even Minter at the back post or someone like that, just to get a cross goal and see that this is what's going to happen and see that's where the success is coming from, and actually get a cross goal for an easy tap in.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say too much negative things about my guy, but he, he was marked out the game for most of it, and I do agree with you. There was one that sort of when Thomas got in and he's flashed it across the goal, and Welbeck's stretching for it, and you're just thinking like, oh, if he's just a yard quicker, he gets
Yeah.
his toe in that, and it's in the 6 yard box. So if you get anything on it, it's probably going to go in. So there was those moments.
Yeah, 100%. And after this short ad break, we will be talking about Fabian Hertzler, a man that we have grown to love and we have spoken so highly of, and his style of play and his ability to not be afraid no matter who he plays. But yeah, we'll see you after the break. Do you have a story to tell that the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching new audiences who are engaged with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high quality podcast built for growth from day one. with 4K audio recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, you knows, and 22 other speech patterns. Zencastr makes it easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. And we are back from the short ad break to talk about our guy, Fabian Hertzler. And bless the tactico himself, you are Mr. Professional in this field, the coach. What have you enjoyed about seeing him and seeing that performance on Saturday?
I keep getting these nicknames. First from the Danny Welbeck enjoyer, now I'm the Tactico. But I'm not going to complain. Yeah, I think what I was mainly looking for this game is whether or not he's going to change how we approach the game, and I don't think he did. I think Arsenal are a very good team, so naturally there are going to be moments where you are suffering a bit and you're getting pinned back. But overall, they still try to play out from the back. We're still seeing some really nice rotations in the middle. João Pedro's positioning coming in deep. The wingers staying wide. We're seeing a lot of that. I think we didn't see too much of Jack Hinshaw inverting, but perhaps that's a risk you don't really want to take, especially with Saka and the way he was playing that down that right hand side. So it was really interesting to see that he's sort of stuck to his gun.
Yeah, and it's good to see as well just the confidence he has in our players in terms of just letting them go out there and kind of be free still to this day, no matter who we play, even if it is a team like Arsenal, to like stick to the principles that he wants to implement and not shy away from playing out from the back or not shy away from being an attacking team. And like you say, we mentioned João Pedro, who did win the TNT match, man of the match. He was still able to have that license just to roam the pitch and kind of dictate play, pick up pockets wherever he wanted to be. It feels like this system feels very well orientated for him, or specifically in terms of giving him that freedom to roam the pitch and be the playmaker that we all know he is.
Yeah, and I think it was a shame to see Milner come off early because he's 37, but he's still got so much energy, and he's just naturally he's just so fit, so he's okay to get up and down the pitch. He makes some really darting runs, and he's quite aggressive going forwards. So that did sort of affect the shape a little bit, but Ayari came on and did okay, to be fair. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, we spoke about that shot he had, but I thought he did okay. And yeah, I think Hertz has looked at this game and seen a way that we can actually still get something from it, and not just sort of sat back and we'll rely on a set piece, or we'll rely on something, or we'll just get through it and see what happens in the last 15. It's just stuck to everything they've been doing, really. So it's brilliant to see.
Yeah, I feel like that's very modern as well. Like all managers nowadays, I feel to be successful, you have to kind of adapt to this style of football where you won't see many Sean Dyches in the future because of the way football's going. And I feel like there's now, I mean, you even see it with Russell Martin, Southampton. They were playing out from the back and they're keen to carry on no matter if it leads to mistakes. And that is just the way that football's going. No matter who your opposition is, that you shouldn't change the way you play, or you shouldn't change how you trying to play out from the back. And I think that's good to see that Hertzler's clearly sticking to that and shows, like you said, shows belief in his players. Now, one thing we did notice, and we spoke about a bit yesterday, is the struggles beating the low block. And once they did go down to 10 men, they did very much park the bus, which is, I mean, good for us. I guess paying respect to us. They like us, which is, yeah. So that's where the struggles were, wasn't there? When we couldn't beat the block.
Yeah, I think I thought the main issue for not creating a lot. I felt like the wingers didn't stay wide enough and make that back five really stretch out. Like Ruta came on, I can't remember who for Minter on the right hand side, and he's not really a wide man, I'd say. So he wanted to come back inside, and then it just made it quite congested in there already. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got some big guys in there already, so they're happy to deal with that. Him coming inside, we needed the width to stay as wide as possible, and then the gaps in between those players will appear for the likes of João Pedro and Ciso when he came on. But they just really didn't do that.
Mm.
Adingra came on. Do you think he came on quite late?
Yeah, I mean that's something. That's the only thing I think. The only negative I guess you could probably have with Hertzler is that he is making these substitutions quite late on, where they have it's harder to find your footing in the game and implement yourself or make a difference. So I think I would like to see Mintus Adingra start a lot earlier or come on when things aren't going right, or just to change it up a little bit. Uh, but yeah, that's the thing I think that we struggled with is that we are obviously have pace, and that's how we scored our goal with Minter and Matoma. But they just kind of didn't allow that space in behind for us to run into because they were sitting so deep, and then they were playing on the counter. It didn't really suit our style of football.
Yeah, with the goal, it came at a time where they're still just adjusting, so they haven't
Mm,
really sat back yet. They're still working out what they needed to do. But later on in the game, there was no way a pass like that would get through because they were just
yeah,
deeper. Um, but again, I think Arsenal are a good team, and they've highlighted that. They've basically said that the only way we're in trouble is if these players
bring back.
run
Yeah,
off us. So what we need to do is just sit off, and we'll be okay. It would have been good to like. I guess the game just needed a bit of magic from someone in the box to find a finish, beat a
yeah,
player's shoot, or maybe those shots outside the box we spoke about yesterday. If there's a
just
bit more
wasn't
quality on
going
the
in.
end of them, that's
Yeah,
how you win the game.
yeah, and that you got to give credit to Arsenal's defending. They were putting their body on the line, and Gabriel was blocking everything. It felt like, so that was just annoying, to be honest.
Yeah, there was one where it's hit him square in the chest. That looked painful.
Hit him square in the chest, and he still, for somehow, had the audacity to get up and try and block the second shot. Like, mate, just give us a break.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're here to talk about next. Belieber's first start and the Lewis Dunk redemption arc. You know, he did cost us, but then he made up for it, and that's our man. So yeah, join us after the break to hear about those things. This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day. And we are back to talk about Carlos Belieber and his first start. First of all, Bless, were you happy to see his name in the lineup?
Yeah, I was happy to see his name. I felt like we did need um, someone who's going to sit in there and just play down as well. And it was good to see him, especially with Gilmore leaving. My one concern about Belieber is his ability to pick the ball up from the defense, the back four,
Yeah.
and turn and find a good pass. But I think he's coming along nicely. He's still quite young, and that's a part of his game he can develop. What I really like about him, and Joe's spoken about him quite a lot, he's so powerful in going forward in his ball carrying.
Yeah.
So yeah, more to see. I think he's got a lot to offer this year.
Yeah, and it was crazy that in the second half against a side like Arsenal, and this is goes back to our point of how brave we were in terms of not changing the way we play, but we had two 20-year-old centre midfielders starting against Arsenal in that second half, or once Milner went off anyway. So from the 38th minute on, and they didn't seem phased. They actually did a pretty good job, I felt. Belieber, like you mentioned, his first start, he won 2 out of his 3 tackles and made 5 recoveries. And we spoke about the shots outside the box. This guy was the main culprit. 4 shots outside the box.
Oh,
The audacity of this guy. He clearly saw his name in the lights.
yeah, I saw his name in the papers for those shots.
Yeah.
I remember the one that's hit. Who did it hit? Gabrielle.
Mm.
But I can't remember the other 4, to be honest. They must have been wayward.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think one of them was an absolutely just skied it. But yeah, you mentioned there was one passage of play. He carried the ball, he won the ball, and this is when we were watching, we were screaming at the TV, weren't we? We were like, play it, play it, play it to Minter. And it's where he intercepted it at the halfway line, did that, carried it forward, took way too many touches. I feel like dribbled it way too far forward, took 4 touches instead of playing it straight out to the right where Minter was free and ready for a one-on-one.
Yeah, it was again it's that passing I was on about and that awareness to see the pass, and it was set up beautifully for like a left-footed nice reverse ball into Minter's path, but he's just not seeing it. I don't think. I think he's just looking directly in front of him, and he's seeing the other boys. I think it was like João Pedro or
Yeah, on the left.
Matoma. He's seen them two, and he's tried to thread it through, and has not seen the acres of space Minter is in. But yeah, it's that part of his game he needs to improve, and I think under Hertz he definitely can. I wonder if Billy Gilmore would have been the man to make a pass like that.
Yeah. And that is, I mean, that's the only reason I think he was actually in the squad or in the lineup anyway, is because we have just sold Billy Gilmore. And I think, yeah, Billy Gilmore, I reckon, probably would have made that pass, but hey, he's off to Napoli now, and we'll probably keep tracks of his career. Maybe. The other man, the man that cost us a goal, but also made up for it. And that is Lewis Dunk. What did you make of his performance? It was the highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
Yeah, I think you got that in a nutshell. I think he after the mistake, to be fair, he bounced back quite well and actually looked assured and okay. Because normally after you make a mistake like that, you get a bit nervous, and you can see players when they get nervous. But in the interview at the end, he was talking about how Hertzler wants them to play a lot more vertical passes, and obviously for the goal, that's the whole point of it. Actually, we saw that there for the goal. I just
Yeah.
wonder, like, why is he not doing it more? And I've seen it a couple of times, but this was the a highlighted moment, I guess, because we scored from it. But we need to see that a little bit more. We need to see that range of passing like that into the fours.
Yeah, especially for him, who is so capable of doing those long balls, and that's one of his biggest assets of his game is to make those long balls. That is something, especially when you've got the pace on the wings, like Minter, like Mitoma, Dingra when he comes on. It should be That's a place I think we should be targeting more. Like these long balls, try and drag them in, beat the press, and then just play the men in, play more vertical. Like he said, I thought that was a really interesting comment in the post match interview where he said he's trying to get Hurst's trying to get them to play more vertical and trying to get them to play this new style of football where they are just going, long sometimes, and that is something I think where we can be a real like score a lot of goals from, especially with that pacing behind.
Yeah, and yesterday we spoke a little bit about the movement right before the goal, how we had
Mm.
Matoma and Minter sort of rotating their position for that to happen, and I think those are the types of things we're going to see more often as Hertzer gets more time with them. Those are the kind of things that are going to be embedded, and it'll be just that type of playing pattern where space is created and then the player runs through. So I think within time we'll see a little bit more of that passing straight through the middle to get onto our quick forwards.
Yeah, when you look at goals nowadays, or when you really like dissect goals and passages of play, that's when you do start realizing how everything is kind of pre-planned. So obviously that
Yeah.
movement there was clearly worked on in the training ground, and I think that's if that's a thing, if that's a sign of things to come, then that is something to be very excited for, and that's. It once again Hurtsler implementing a style of football that potentially we aren't very used to.
Yeah, it's funny because that's where football's going in terms of like patterns are being rehearsed in training and then just done in the game. And a lot of people don't like that and say it's a bit rigid. But when they come off, they look brilliant. So for me, I love to see it. I love to see that teams, trying to unlock a defense by
Yeah, in
moving pieces around. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, well, we're now out of time, unfortunately, bless. We can't dissect any more plays, any more passages of play. I know you probably want to sit here for another half an hour and talk
Oh, I'll be
about
here
all
all
the different
day.
things. Get your tactics board out, the little whiteboard. You're going to start drawing up for our five-a-side team, I reckon, sooner or later.
That's a plan.
Implementing Hertz, yeah, implementing Hertz's style of football in our five-a-side team. Well, we'll love to see it. Shame we aren't anywhere near as good as Minter, Mitoma, and the likes. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for listening and signing out to the Daily Brighton podcast. See ya.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.